Oh, so good, look at that.
Yep, that's 5, you'll just put it in context, mate.
All good? Okay, good morning everyone, and thank you for attending today's Ordinary Council meeting. I declare the Ordinary meeting of the 25th September 2024 open at 9 a.m. I advise members of the public this meeting is being live streamed and recorded in accordance with Council standing orders. Councillors and staff are reminded of their responsibilities under their respective codes of conduct, both inside the Council meeting and when dealing externally on behalf of Council. I'd like to start with a welcome to country, and on behalf of Whitsunday Regional Council, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. We recognise their deep enduring connection to country, and we extend our respect and gratitude for their wisdom and culture. Welcome fellow councillors, Whitsunday Regional Council staff and members of the public and no media today. Okay, item number 1, apologies. I'd like to note that Councillor John Finlay has an apology for the 25th September 2024 Ordinary Council meeting. Item number 2, condolences. Are there any councillors that wish to acknowledge any recently deceased members of the community? No? On behalf of Whitsunday Regional Council, we'd like to acknowledge and pay respects to the recently departed of the Whitsundays region and offer our sincere condolences to their families and loved ones. Will you please raise for a minute's silence? Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Under the confirmation of minutes, I please have over Councillor Wright, second Councillor Clifford. Any comment, Director Bradshaw? No? Okay, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried 6-0. I'd like to note a couple of late report items at 13.1 and 13.2. These will be considered after item 11.13. Item number 4, business arising. Would any councillor like to raise any business arising from the previous minutes? No? Number 5, Merrill minute. There is no Merrill minute. Number 6, notice of motion. No notices of motion have been received. Number 7, deputations. There are no deputations for this meeting. Number 8, petitions, questions on notice. There are no questions on notice from the previous meeting. Item number 9, we've received a number of questions from the public gallery. I'd like to invite Rojan Taylor to come to the end of the table to read his question first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, councillors. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present my question today. Much appreciated. The current lease of Haven Green will expire on the 31st of December 2024. As noted, the current leasee is preparing to hand over the land to council. I've been advised that council has engaged an external consultant to undertake a master plan for the land for a potential regional sporting precinct. My questions are, when were the consultants engaged and who are the consultants? Have the consultants contacted any clubs, groups or organisations with regards formulating a draft plan following the public consultation? And lastly, when will the master plan or draft plan be completed after the public consultation? Thank you for listening to my questions. It's been appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. would you like to respond to Mr. CEO?
Yep, so we will take that question on notice and we will basically provide a written response, and that will be incorporated into, provided to Roger, but also be incorporated into next month's minutes.
As expected, thank you.
Thank you. So we have two other questions from Jodie Crocker and Philip Batty. Mr. CEO, I'll hand you over to you to read those.
So on behalf of Judy Crocker, public question. Question 1, Ballymore Resources and Infrastructure Responsibility. With the proposed Ballymore Resources operation potentially impacting local infrastructure, specifically the use of bridges and roads, what measures will the Council take to ensure that any necessary upgrades or increased road maintenance do not fall on the ratepayers? Given that past Titmar Road upgrades and maintenance has required years of advocacy from local residents before action has been taken, can the Council confirm if a road use agreement will be negotiated with Ballymore Resources to ensure they cover any associated costs resulting from increased heavy vehicle traffic? Question 2, Kelsey Creek Bridges. I'd like to bring the attention to recent signage on 2 bridges in Kelsey Creek which state weight limits of no trucks over 13 tonnes and 17 tonnes, allegedly due to rotten mirrors under both bridges. With Ballymore Resources pending application number and the Ditmar project in mind, can you assure us that any potential rebuild or upgrade of these bridges will not be designed or extended to accommodate high tonnage road trains and trucks intended to support Ballymore Resources coal mining operations, when local traffic does not require higher weights capacity than the present capacity? Further, can Council assure the ratepayers that the burden of these upgrades will not fall on Whitsunday's residents, given the significance of these issues to the local community? So we will take that on notice and we'll provide a written response from our current to it. Mr. Mayor, we also have a question from Mr. Philip Batty. Question 1. I would like Council to answer and explain discrepancies to the public and also address why these errors were not picked up and corrected prior to the presentation of voting. He has provided quite a number of examples in relation to that for us to work through. His second question is, where is the budget and performance plan for Flagstaff Hill? His third question, which is his prime question, is how can these errors, mistakes, omissions and misstatements pass through every level of Council and its executive unnoticed and not corrected, then be unanimously approved by councillors who were all intimately involved in their preparation, review and revision? So take this on notice as well, and we'll provide a detailed commentary on each of the items and also the examples that have been provided.
Mr. CEO? Councillor.
So will the entire letters be available for anybody that might want to read it in association with our response to it? Because I noticed you did the abridged version there,
Yes.
which is fine.
So, it's through Mr. Mayor. So what we're trying to do is make sure it's just the questions that are being asked to the chamber. Obviously these letters do provide a degree of background context and other components, but we'll actually have both the letter and included into the minutes, and also then a commentary in terms of the letter that we sent back to the individual regarding that.
Thank you.
Councillor Collins?
Yeah, can we get the answers to those that you send out there direct to the councillors as well, please? I'm curious to find out what's going on there yourself, so yeah.
Into that?
Oh, yeah, no problem. I'll endeavour to do that.
Further on that one? Okay. Item number 10 is committee reports. 10.1 Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes, 20 August 2024. Move Councillor Wright. Second Councillor Bowman. Any discussion on that? No? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. On On to officers' reports. Item 11.1, development application for development permit for reconfiguration of a lot at Betzel's Lane, Bowen. I'll move that one. Second, Deputy Mayor. Okay, can I get someone to lift that from the table?
I will move that.
Yep, Councillor Wrights move that. Second, Councillor Clifford. And then as far as moving,
So just
all,
vote on that.
okay, all in favour? Motion's carried 6-0. And then to move the report itself, I'll move the report. Second, Councillor Wright. Matthew, would you like to speak to this one?
Yeah, thank you. Through the Chair, very quickly, this matter was tabled at last Council's meeting, pending some further discussion with the proponent as to the viability of connecting to sewer. Those discussions have been had and the proponent has come back to us confirming that connecting to sewer is fine. So in the report that we've got conditions for operational works to make that connection. So it's all within the report as read.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Wright?
Thank you. Through the Chair, just a quick comment. I know we've worked through this, but very happy that I know there is a shortage of these sort of industrial sites in Bowen, so very happy that we could work with the proponent and get to this stage. So yeah, really happy that this is moving forward.
Council, any further comment? Question? The motion that Council approve the development application at Lot 15, Betzel's Lane, Bowen, I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Item 11.2, memorial request. Move Councillor Wright, second Councillor Clifford. Mark, how are you? So we're just on 11.2 now, which is the first memorial request. Would you like to speak to that?
Morning, Mr. Mayor, councillors, directors. It's the time today to for the decision for council for the two memorial requests. For the first one for Jaden Jankowski for the installation of a memorial plaque at Grace Bay, north of Grace Bay.
Thank you. Any comment or question? Councillor Wright?
Through the Chair, this item has come to us today pretty much through absolute devastation and tragedy. But I think that the way that the family is choosing to remember their son and bring this to council shows a lot of strength. And as a parent, like, I think you never stop fighting for your kids. And just thinking of this request as well, and reading through the report, it does sort of say that this particular location was quite special for Jaden, and I think it is a very calming and peaceful location that they've chosen. And how many other members of the public actually go there for that exact reason? So I think indirectly, I think it shows that there is, it is a lovely memorial site, and also particularly on the back of the Mayor's ball too, Mr. Mayor, and one of your chosen charities was Whitsunday Suicide Prevention Network, and I think that highlights the importance of remembering and also recognising members of our community. So yeah, but I just wanted to finish off by offering, on behalf of council and my family, my deepest condolences to the Jankowski family, and yeah, that's probably all I'd like to say to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Spoken. Any further comments? Okay, the motion that council approve the installation of a small memorial park for Jaden Jankowski on a rock located at Coral Point, Bowen. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Item 11.3, memorial request for Des Erica Proserpine Memorial Swimming Pool. Move Councillor Simpson, second Councillor Clifford. Mark, I'll want you to brief this one, please.
Good morning again, through the Chair, Mr. Mayor. I'm here to attend council meeting today for the decision in relation to the request by Desney Wilkins to place a memorial plaque at the Proserpine Swimming Pool. There's also a request for the renaming of Proserpine Memorial Swimming Pool, which I recommended for a part of the council decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Collins?
Just in regards to this, the pool has a long history. It started in 1960. A committee got formed. They were going to build the pool, and the pool has been named Memorial in honour of the returned servicemen. Des Erica actually came to the region as the Shire Clerk in those days, the CEO now, in 1966. And they've been raising money since 1960 to try and get this to happen. Des came up with some good ideas for it, but Des and his wife later on down the track were very much involved in the training, swimming coaching in the area, and they actually did produce quite a few junior champions in the Australian champions actually, yes, over the years. I'm in agreement with a small plaque inside the pool somewhere, but I mean definitely not changing the name of the pool. But I mean, because there's a lot of history in that pool, you know. I mean, a lot of people involved in it, and you know, as you can see in here, just the names of the original people in the committee and farmers, etc., all around the region who did it. But there's been a lot of good coaches in there over the years, and you know, where do we start? And where do we stop? You know, so yeah, that's my opinion.
Councillor Collins, anyone would like to speak for or against the recommendation? Councillor Bowman?
Thank you. Just a question to the officer. Under the policy, when plaques and memorials are put forward, it's normally up to the proponent to cover the cost of the plaque, and if there's a maintenance term, I think, isn't it? I'm just wondering, we obviously have plenty of council staff who work for the community, a lot of volunteers who coach, things like that. If each one of these is put forward, does it become the ratepayer's responsibility to memorialise these people, or does the policy outline a path forward if somebody wants somebody recognised?
Through the Chair, thank you. Councillor Bowman. I'd like to advise that I would be recommending that Desney Wilkins funds the plaque through, as per policy, Parks and Gardens will kindly install the plaque, but it is up to the request to design the plaque and provide the plaque to council. Parks and Gardens do offer the service to install the plaque at the location of the site.
So that is just our standard policy, the way it is. We're not doing anything specifically different here, we're just abiding by policy. Yep.
Through the Chair, Mr. Mayor, that's correct, yes, abiding by policy.
Thank you.
Any further comment, councillors? Okay. The motion that council does not approve the renaming of the facility and that council approve the installation of a memorial plaque at the Proserpine Memorial Swimming Pool to honour Des Erica's contributions and dedication to the community. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Item 11.4, Collinsville Flying Foxes. Move Councillor Wright, second Councillor Collins. Manager Hardy, you're going to speak to this item?
Yes. Good morning, Mayor, councillors. Today I'd just like to provide an update on the flying fox issue at Collinsville. So the purpose of today's report is to seek some clarification and guidance from Council on how to manage the flying fox issue at Collinsville over the next, say, 6 to 12 months. The current situation at Collinsville is that over the last few weeks we've had a large influx of little red flying fox. So the population now is over 8,000. We're occupying 22 trees on 11 properties. So we know that the little reds are seasonal, so they come in usually July and August and then exit in the summer.
Continue.
The other initiative we're undertaking at the moment is reviewing Council's flying fox policy, its plan, and also the route plan for Collinsville. So we've engaged a consultant to do that body of work, and those reports should be finalised and ready to be brought back to Council from the middle to the end of October. So today, the flying fox issue out of Collinsville has cost about $419,000 over the last 3 years. There are some options in front of us to go forward. One is to do deterrent work between now and say mid-November, which is the cresting season. So at the moment the black flying fox are with pups, and as they progress through that process, they'll get into cresting season, which is when the juveniles are left back in the roost trees, and at that point in time there's a high risk that if we do deterrent actions, the juveniles might fall out of the trees. A more preferred timing for the deterrent work, such as pyrotechnics, is probably March to April next year, onwards through to maybe July. That's when the little reds have left town, and we'll just have the more sedentary black flying fox in town at that point in time, which will be a population of maybe 3,000. So there are some options in this report. We did go out to the public in June and July to consult the Collinsville community. We had 29 respondents. Most of the respondents were in favour of Council maintaining its coordination role. Most were in favour of trying to move the flying fox out of town. So in October last year there was a Council resolution to engage a consultant to assist with the deterrent works, which involved pyrotechnics. It was quite a costly operation at around $240,000. That worked for a very short period of time, but then we came up against the correction period and we had to stop that works. So doing deterrent works over the next few weeks is problematic if we're going to go and do pyrotechnics. We might end up with the same situation as last time. So I do have a little PowerPoint presentation which summarises the cost to date. So as you can see, we've just grouped our costs against financial years, and so the total cost spent over the last few years is $417,000. On the next page, I have a summary of some deterrent options, where I've also put in the estimated flying fox population and the risk of using deterrents, likelihood of success and cost. So officers feel that if we do deterrent work such as pyrotechnics over the next month, there's high risk and a low to medium chance of success. If we do deterrents from March to say July next year, we think that we're going to have a higher degree of success, and there's a lower risk because it's after the birthing and the juvenile period. The current resolution in the report is to approve flying fox deterrent activities to attempt to move the flying fox to a suitable roost site outside of Collinsville Township. The resolution is broad to enable us to be flexible in our deterrent works and do the deterrent works in the most appropriate time of the year so we don't impact the flying fox, but we give the residents sufficient notice. The other issue we've been discussing is the development of a residential assistance package or subsidy. With the residents with hundreds of flying fox in their backyards, this creates a large mess for the residents. Other councils have introduced this type of residential assistance subsidy, and that's used to partner with the residents on usually 50-50 basis, help cleaning external walls, panels, cars, etc. Help pay for air conditioning units, just to make life a little bit more bearable with the flying foxes present. So we have developed some draft outlines of how that residential assistance package might operate and might be used. So one option is that we could set aside, say, $30,000 to put towards a residential assistance package. And the way that might work is that residents who have flying fox in their backyards directly, they might be eligible up to $2,000 per year on a 50-50 basis as a reimbursement for improved activities such as cleaning, etc., which help them live with flying fox a little bit better. There's a number of councils on the Queensland coast who run this type of scheme with mixed results. So what we would do in that situation is apply for the Queensland Government Flying Fox grant to partner with our $30,000. How that might work over the next 6-12 months is we could possibly run as a trial. 12 months, we could implement it over the next few months, over the correction period, and before we do the deterrent work in March next year. So they're just some suggestions which I'd like to bring to the table. But I'm really keen to get some feedback from the council as to how we would like to manage this flying fox issue over the next 6 to 12 months. Thank you.
So I'll start with the first question. So the recommendation is to approve the deterrent activities, but in your professional opinion, you're saying that the option 2 in the report to do that program between September and October is that still feasible?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's technically possible. We can get the staff to be activated to do it, but there's high risk and a low to moderate chance of success because the black flying fox will up, and the longer we go forward, the more we're going to come to the crescent period where the juveniles are left in the trees, and there's a high risk that if we do deterrence, they can fall out of the trees. So it's not our preferred strategy at this point.
And the work being done by the consultant around the policy, the management plan and the roost plan, that was identified as October. We're expecting that to come back in October?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. So the current council flying fox policy says that if there's a flying fox issue on residential areas and urban areas, council will assist with the deterrent actions. So our resolution today is consistent with the council's flying fox policy. Other councils have different policy positions. Some councils don't coordinate deterrent actions in urban residential areas. But our flying fox policy says that we do. The consultant is reviewing our plan, and it'll also talk about the timing of deterrent actions and what type of deterrent actions we might choose. The third piece of work there is developing a new Collinsville flying fox roost plan, which will be a bit more detail about how we go about managing the flying fox roost. So there'll be the policy, the plan, and then the roost plan, which is a lot of detail.
Any other questions? Councillor Clifford, question?
Yeah, I do. Lots. I'd actually like this to lay on the table until we get this report from the consultants, because we clearly said last year that was it. When we spent the whatever it was, we said that's it, no more. I will entertain subsidising removing the trees, but as for ongoing efforts by outside contractors and our staff,
So just to be clear, councillor, are you moving a
I'm
procedural
moving
motion
a
to table
procedural motion to table it pending
the Roos plan?
yes.
Okay. Defer.
Oh, defer, that's fine.
Until after we've received the
Yes.
Roos plan.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So as a procedural motion, we need to put that to the vote. This is the debate, okay? Yep. Okay. Councillor Simpson.
I'd like to speak against the original motion. I supported last year, I think it was the 234k, and it didn't work. And I feel for the residents out there, but we've tried our best, and I think we're throwing good money after bad if we follow this. And I'd support some sort of a flying fox management plan similar to the bushfire one, where residents can get up to a $2,000 or 50% subsidy for managing the trees or whatever vegetation in their yards. But only on a once-off. Like, it's not the sort of thing, it's not an ongoing procedure where people can do it year after year. We've got to try and do the best we can with the limited resources we have. At the end of the day, there's a lot of money, but 400,000 been spent out there in the last few years, so we need to come up with a better option. This one certainly hasn't worked, so I'm against it.
So yeah, I guess just talking to the, anyone want to speak to the procedural motion? Councillor Wright, you had your hand up first.
Probably against the procedural motion, Mr Mayor. Look, we did discuss this back before the election, back in March or February, whatever it was, beginning of this year. And I wasn't happy then that it was deferred. Like, we could have been doing something in this whole period. But yeah, and honestly, look, I'm not against a Roos management plan and looking at whatever options that we possibly can to help the residents. But deferring it, I just feel we're just waiting again. And the people out in Collinsville, like, they're prisoners in their own homes at the present time. Like, I got photos just this morning, again, of like a roost above a water tank. And like, to me, that's just not good enough. Like, we give so much money and so much support to a lot of different groups and organisations, and we fund so much. And yet, like, this is like a health and safety, and I know I've said this before, but it is a health and safety issue. And like, we also give so much free to the community as well. So I really don't think that this is a waste of money. This is a community issue. And I feel if council doesn't play a role in the deterrent actions, people will just take this into their own hands. And I think we've already got complaints coming in from residents who are out in the street cracking a whip, and dogs are just shooting through fly screen doors and ending up in the vets because it's just not managed. Whereas if we play a role in this, and look, I'll take the advice from Scott, like, if now is not the time to be doing this, I take that on board. But I think we need to be doing something in the meantime. I don't just want to sit here. We are only following council policy, and to the point that we have to come back here to discuss something that's actually in our policy, where we could be being proactive. I just think, like, what are we doing? Like, yeah, like, the officers are allowed to do their job according to the policy. So, yeah, I just want to see something happen. And I would rather be criticised for trying and failing than not doing anything at all. So, and that's what the people out there are wanting. We're here for the people at the end of the day. And yes, it is a lot of money, but we've got to try something. So I definitely don't support deferring this today.
Councillor Rock, do you want to like to comment on the procedural motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, firstly, I totally agree that they're noisy and smelly and it's not nice living under them, very much like living under birds or anything else. Their faeces is no worse or any more diseased than the average bird poo. The health risks, as described by Queensland Health, are very low. The chance of catching the Larissa virus is only through contact, scratches or fluid interchange. So no touch, no risk is what the Queensland government says. That doesn't detract from the fact that I know living under them is terrible. And that's where I would think the guidelines, the only guidelines say we shouldn't be doing dispersals when they're heavily pregnant, let alone when the babies are born. Charters Towers has already shut down their attempts at dispersal because they found young. So it's very hard for me to believe there are babies present in Charters Towers and not heavily pregnant bats here. I think this year is lost, and I think this year has been lost because of a decision we made last year to go all or nothing. Our policy says council will consider helping on private land. It doesn't say we will, it says we will consider. And that would be my thing is, through this period, do we look at $30,000 towards improving amenity for directly affected residents? Do we then get our plans in place, get our policy sorted, so we are having a coordinated approach to a long-term solution? Because for me, just sending up fireworks and hoping for the best, I'm very concerned it'll end up in somebody else's yard. So I know Scott's been looking backwards, as have I, before they even came into town. We've heard stories of them being in a waterhole out west of town. I think there's things like this that we can look at. There's Department of Natural Resources covenanted land out there. There are some existing water holes. Perhaps something there could create a roost that they actually prefer to be at, because most flying foxes want to be near a body of water. It's unusual for them to be in town without water present. So I think there's a lot of options for management to get them out of town, but a lot of money on next to no results. $300,000 last year, they were back in within 3 weeks. So my question for the moment would be, have we put in Brown 7 grant funding application?
English Honey?
Mr. Mayor. With round 7 funding, we have made an application to the state government to get some funds to help us with a residential subsidy package. So that application is in, and that would work with, council would have $30,000 to put in. We'll be seeking another $30,000 from the state government to make $60,000 all up. So the plan there is that those residents who are directly impacted by flying fox would be eligible for up to $2,000 per year. Those within 100 metres would be eligible for $1,000 per year. Because it's not just impacting those particular residents with 600 or so bats in their backyard, it's the neighbours being impacted as well. That's been submitted to the state government. Not sure how that's going to go, but yes, we have applied for that grant.
Okay. Councillor Collins?
Yeah, I'm against procedural motion. I'm with Councillor Wright on this one. Scott, just a simple question. So when was this report done at 3,500 bats? When was it done, mate?
Mr. Mayor, it was done about 3 to 4 weeks ago.
And what have we got now, 8,000?
With over 8,000.
So it's more than doubled in 3 to 4 weeks.
Yes.
There will, like Councillor Wright said, we need someone there to coordinate the management of it all. And it's obviously council. Obviously, I asked Roy yesterday, the Mayor yesterday, I mean, this should be a state issue. It shouldn't be a local government issue. Is Dale Last out there pulling his weight, doing something, offering promises? Probably not. Someone needs to, because I mean, 8,000 in 4 weeks, what's going to be like in 4 weeks' time, you know? So we we definitely need someone overall managing it, so, and we need the council to do it because no one else putting their hand up to do it.
I think I'll just add my bit on this. I agree with Councillor Collins there. I think we do need to raise this issue further with the state government and future candidates out there. I think it is an issue that sits outside of our remit. For me, I think on the advice we've got here, to me it seems that the ability to use deterrence in the short term is not an option. So I'll be supporting the procedural motion to defer the judgment on deterrent activities. I don't want to rule deterrent activities out, but I think we've paid the money to engage a consultant to develop a new policy for us that is going to go some way in addressing the issue. And I think, as the report stands, we're throwing good money after bad money, and I think we need to take a more considered approach in that. That's all right.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. To Acting Director Scott, just with the resolution, the way it reads right now, it doesn't actually have a timeline of when the deterrence will take place. So to me, that could mean like tomorrow, or it could mean next March. So we've left it fairly open-ended, but like if this is deferred today, what do we tell the community? Like what are we doing? And do you think the community is really, look, I know we've got to have plans and policies and things like that, but the community doesn't care about management plans. Like their highest priority is the safety of their family and getting these animals out of their backyard. So, like, what do we tell the public? Like, to me, this is not looking good, but yeah, like, what are we going to tell the public? And Mr. Mayor, like, what are you going to tell the public? Like, yeah.
Look, I think to answer that question, we've spoken to the public around the use of deterrent activities there. We have shown that we've engaged in deterrent activities and it's been unsuccessful. I think we've gone down a path of engaging a specialist to provide us with an alternative outcome to what we've tried already. So we need to stay the course with that. And look, I think as far as being able to table it or defer it, I'm not adverse to putting a time frame on there if the manager is comfortable in that, and is it possible to bring it back to the November meeting? Is that something you would be comfortable with?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be guided by the council. Like Councillor Wright said, we receive a lot of correspondence from the Collinsville community. We get phone calls from distressed residents saying, what is council's position? Is council going to help? What can we do? In other council areas, like this issue is common right up and down the Queensland coast, so we're not alone in this. We actually have a North Queensland Flying Fox network of 9 councils, and we meet every 3 months to discuss these things. So what we're going through here is very similar up and down the coast. I'm happy for the report to be tabled and brought back in November, bring back policy and deal with it as a package. We have the council resolution here to be ruled, so that if council was supportive, we could go in and help residents with some smoke and some low level deterrents, and then with the view of next March, April, then do a conservative effort policy. That's an option. The residents I've spoken to really want assistance. Some have expressed support for a subsidy to help cleaning and all that, because they're living in a terrible situation. But again, I'll refer back to the council to provide us with some guidance on this issue.
I'm comfortable with this being brought back to November, if you're able to do that. I think it would be better to come back with a range of options and actually being able to articulate what they are, other than just saying we're going to try and order deterrents.
We just change the wording to this calendar year.
Yes.
Councillor Wright?
Thank you, through the chair. So just hearing that, like, obviously the flying fox management policy is quite important, and 100% we do need to work on that. But I would like to keep the resolution as it is, and maybe just add that we bring this back for further discussion and an outcome back in November, the next November meeting, if you think that's possible, Scott.
I think we're talking to the procedural.
Yeah, well, that's what I don't agree with the procedural.
It's been moved though.
The procedural's been, yeah, I just don't agree with deferring it. And so if there's a way that we could get around that and still bring that other management plan back in November, but still try to assist some of the residents with the few problems without spending a great deal of money, I think that would be a better outcome.
Councillor Clifford?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I in no way don't want to help, but I just don't want to be throwing more money, good money after bad. It clearly hasn't worked, and if I understood you correctly, Scott, they're already either with pup or whatever, so we can't even legally shoot them off for fear of miscarriages or babes falling onto the ground. So all I want to know is how we're going to manage it, whether that is that we subsidise and we come in and cut the damn trees down, the offending trees, or whatever it is. But I actually want a plan that's going to work, because clearly nothing that we've been doing up till now has been.
Councillor Bowman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I'd say even the previous motion I wouldn't support without a dollar figure on it, to actually, to just do an open slather resolution with an open checkbook is not something I feel comfortable when I look at the bottom line for us is already over $400,000. So what I would suggest to the mover is, in this instance, to show we're trying to do something, if we would consider saying council approves $30,000 towards a residential assistance package subject to the round 7 grant approval, and then to defer for the decision, so that we can, or whether you want to put the 30,000 up or have it subject to approval, I don't know the turnaround times, but I feel we should be assisting the residents and putting that message out to the public, rather than just saying we're waiting another month to decide. If we do at least say subject to the approval of the state government, then if the state government approves with our grant application that this is worthy of funding, I think we should equal that. That would be my recommendation to the mover, or I'd be happy to.
I think that's problematic, Councillor Bowman, because we don't have a budget, we don't have that piece of a program in place yet, and I think it's too hypothetical to add that to the procedural. If there's any further on this, we'll put the procedural to the vote. So the procedural motion that the item be deferred to a future meeting this calendar year pending further information on the roost management plan and flying fox management policy. I'll put to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? The procedural motion is carried 4-2.
I have is it a division?
Division, and a division recorded for Councillor Wright and Councillor Collins. Okay, moving on. Item 11.5, donations, sponsorships, grants and in-kind requests. Move Councillor Collins, second Councillor Wright. Are you speaking to this one, Manager Hardy? Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to take questions on this one.
Okay.
But resolution is thanks.
Yep, it's all just for note. Any comments, councillors? Okay, we'll put that to the vote. That the donation, sponsorships, grants and in-kind requests approved as per the report for the month of August. Those in favour? Motion is carried at 6-0. Item 11.6, Regional Arts Development Fund 24-25, Round 1. Move Councillor Simpson, second Councillor Bowman. Would you like to speak to? No. Any comments or questions, councillors?
I can probably.
Councillor Bowman?
Thank you. This is my first meeting as chair of the RADA for the term. I'd just like to express my gratitude to all the committee, but Shauna O'Shamson has not attended the last meeting. She's looking after herself and her other half, and we've also had another lady put herself forward for that position, so it's good to see support coming from the rest of the community. There was a wide variety of applications this year. Some were funded to what they were asking, some were funded for points that we felt worked into the budget. I found there's general support from the entire committee for what we've recommended, and I hope for everyone's approval.
Councillor Bowman, any further comment? Okay, the motion that Council receive the Regional Arts Development Fund minutes and payment to the entities nominated in the report, I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Item 11.7, financial support request, Collinsville Connect Telecentre. Move Councillor Wright, second Councillor Clifford. Any speaking to this one? Sure.
Good morning, everyone. The Collinsville Community Connect, Collinsville Connect Telecentre has been a valuable part of the Collinsville community for over 21 years. It operates as a not-for-profit organisation. Its primary purpose is to help the community with computer and technology issues and training. It's been operating on primarily grants and also fee-for-service. Its long-term coordinator, Supervisor, has been doing a great job over the years. She's ready to retire. What this report's seeking is council support to keep this important facility going in Collinsville, and in particular seeking a $30,000 contribution this financial year. Noting that this value isn't in the budget, but I guess we believe that it's an important community service out there. We have been providing $3,000 per year towards it, and seeking direction from the council.
Just confirming, Manager Hardy, this one is for financial support for the next 3 financial years. That's correct. Yeah. I believe it is.
Yes, that's correct.
This one, Councillor.
To the chair. Yeah, working closely with the Telecentre over the last couple of years since I've been in this role, I've really gotten to know the diverse group of people that do access the centre. On a Thursday, we usually have the golden oldies in there, and they're sort of doing their thing on a Thursday morning. There's also school kids that go in there to access the computer to do their assignments, and I think it's just overall, it is just the heart of the community. So it really is a great thing for the community. Sue Clark has done a fabulous job. She's been there since the beginning, so she's been there for over 20 years. And as a not-for-profit organisation, it's getting harder and harder to keep these sorts of things operational. And I know Sue does a lot, like fixing, she applies to fix the murals in town, and that all comes from the Tele Centre being there. So I think 100% support this, and we did put in a request. It did miss out on the budget, but knowing that we do support a lot of different groups and industries in town, I think this is just like one of those. So yeah, really looking forward to helping and assisting this into the future until we can get the new building off the ground.
Councillor Wright, you also like to speak to or against the motion? Councillor Bowden?
Thanks. In a way, I just feel like I haven't been fully informed about this. I'm just not sure how many people are serviced by the Tele Centre. I understand technology in regional areas is very important, but you know, the library only gets 300 visitors a month, so I just don't really feel I understand what's going on here. I understand there is a service there, but the oldies get their computer training at the Whitsunday Neighbourhood Centre in Kennebunk. We have a Collinsville Neighbourhood Centre. My other concern here is that the not-for-profit worked fantastically under Sue as a volunteer. How does this model work without volunteers? We've got so many not-for-profits out there. I mean, as at the AGM, for one the other day, $30,000 a year would feed how many families for them? You know, in a cost of living crisis. But I'd just like to think we're not setting down $30,000 a year forever. So I'm wondering if we should show a transition within here of stepping down from 30,000 to 20,000 to 10,000 over the 3-year model, or understand better how this transitions into our new community facility. Are we going to be financing a Tele Centre forever? Is this where this is taking us? So that's probably my question to the acting director, is just, you know, this is $90,000. Where are we going from there? Is there just another 90, another 200,000? Are we taking over the running of the whole centre? I'm just trying to understand where this precedent takes us.
Respond to that all? Yeah, so the recommendation is for $30,000 over 3 years at $10,000 per year. Council's been providing $3,000 per year since 2019. I do have the Collinsville Connect Tele Centre's facility outline, I guess, and that goes into a little bit of detail as to where they get their income. So Glencore has been the major project funder with $30,000 per year. They do apply for a range of grants, such as Smarty grants as well. So they have a range of income streams. PC repairs, $4,500. General sales, over $4,000 per year. They hire out their training centre. PC sales, gross is $22,000. So they do have, there does appear to be a service. I don't have how many people they interact with. I don't have those detailed stats. I hope that answers some of your questions.
Look, I've had some experience with the Tele Centre myself, and I think to me it isn't not only an essential service but an institution of Collinsville. I think particularly the first two words there, Collinsville Connect, I think that's probably the greatest benefit that it brings out there. And I think combined with the fact that we see significant support through some of those other major organisations in the region, I think this request is more than reasonable until we have a better understanding of what our future plans with facilities and whatnot is concerned in Collinsville. That's all right. Would you like to say anything?
Well, I think you summed that up really nicely, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Just working with them over the last few years, and I did read an article that was from 10 years ago regarding the Tele Centre, and there was actually figures in that, Councillor Bowman, so I think that's only just increased from there. But yeah, if anything were to happen to that centre, I think we would have public outcry, and really at the end of the day, they probably are doing part of the job of our libraries, because I know there is computers in a lot of the libraries, so I can see that will just go hand in hand, and it will merge together. That they've never once let on to me that they want anything other than to end up in that building at the end of the day, our new community centre. So yeah, I do believe what they're saying and take them by their word, and yeah, just looking forward to continuing this for the next couple of years.
Nothing further, I'll put that to the vote. The motion that council approve financial support of $30,000 to the Collinsville Connect Telecentre for the current financial year to the 2026-27 financial year. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried 6-0. Item 11.8, Economic Development Advisory Committee. So I'd like to move this with a new recommendation. The Council A, establish an Economic Development Advisory Group, not committee. B, appoint myself, the Mayor, as the Chair of the Economic Development Advisory Group. C, nominate Councillor John Finlay as a group member. And D, rescind the Economic Development Advisory Committee, revised terms of reference adopted on the 22nd of February 2018. Second, Councillor Wright. Mr. Carwood, would you like to speak to this one?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors. So basically the purpose of the Economic Development Advisory Group is to establish, provide guidance, advice, recommendations, and aid economic development initiatives in the Whitsunday region. The primary objective of this group will be to promote the growth, sustainability, competitiveness, and local economy and community through collaboration between the local government and key industry and business stakeholders. This group will act as a forum of dialogue, knowledge sharing, and the development of innovative strategies to enhance economic development in the region. As you highlighted, Mr. Mayor, the group will consist of between 15 to 20 members, is what we propose. Council representatives will include the Chief Executive Officer, Director of Commercial Businesses, Director of Regional Strategy and Planning, and then the Manager of Investment and Recruiting. It will also include business associations, industry-specific associations, and then members of small, medium and large business within the region. And this forms part of our corporate plan reference, which is to provide advocacy, partnership, with government, community and business through effective stakeholder engagement. So we're basically an economic development group, as you know. Thank you very much.
Thanks for speaking to this. Look, I think this is an important initiative for me in particular. I think one thing I've heard from all of you is that we really need to strengthen our position with regards to economic development in the region, exploring the immense growth opportunities we have in our region. I think historically we've taken an inward-looking approach with our economic committees. And I think the opportunity with this is to really bring along all of our industry groups, bring along a segment of our business sector to make sure that we're capturing all of the good ideas in the one room. And when we're presenting that to, particularly to the other levels of government and to people externally, that we are presenting one voice on what we see as our economic future. So I'm obviously very supportive of this and look forward to seeing the outputs of this group. Councillor Simpson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to speak in support of this. I think it's a great initiative. Like, for a long time now, in the media, we see we give close to $1 million to the tourism sector annually, and we spend a lot of money on the airports. But we've got the Bowen Collinsville enterprises, the ports, the agriculture, horticulture, and everything else, and I think it's important that they're involved in our future, and especially with 2 elections coming up, I think we should start very soon.
Wink, nudge, eh? Councillor Bowman.
Thank you. I also agree, I think it's a great initiative, getting involved with community and stakeholders. and a shared goal. I was just wondering, I know it's termed a reference only referring to quarterly, but would it be best to put proxies in place just to cover ourselves in case, just to make sure that we do have full representation and if dates clash?
Yeah, we can certainly do that, Councillor. We can reference that in the terms and include that the proxies are invited. And yeah, as you said, it's quarterly. We could potentially also look at by monthly. Thank you.
Any further comment? Okay. The motion that Council establish an economic development advisory group with the other notes there as per the report, I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Item 11.10, Councillor related policies review. Airport Master Plan. Oh, I jumped one. There we go. Item 11.9, Whitsunday Coast Airport Master Plan Infrastructure Report 2024. Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Bowman. Could you come in and speak to?
So this report basically presents the Council of Sunny Coast Airport Master Plan, as well as the Infrastructure Report 2024 that's been prepared. So basically, the infrastructure report was developed to support and guide the expansion of the Sunny Coast Airport. We know that there has been a huge amount of growth and significant growth at the airport since our last master plan in 2015. We've essentially doubled all of our passenger numbers since that report was completed, and therefore it was essential for us to basically re-look at the growth and the expansion opportunities within the airport. The report basically requests that Council adopt the master plan as well as the infrastructure report for 2024, and it is understood that additional engineering and architectural drawings will fall out of this process, so there might be changes to this plan. It's not set in stone, and those two requirements will form the basis of us moving forward. As I highlighted, our passenger numbers have increased from 281,000 in 2015, when we only had Jetstar and Virgin flying to the Sunny Coast, to last year's 509,000. And basically, that includes Skytrains and Qantas, and then obviously we have the demise of Bonza, unfortunately, which we're working hard on replacing. We engaged the Airport Industry Management Support Company, AIMS, to the management report for us, or the master plan for us, following a tender process. Basically, they commenced with consultation on the 24th of July, and that was completed on the 3rd of September. That included community consultation, also included reaching out and getting direct feedback from interested parties in writing through surveys and so forth. And there was also face-to-face consultation at Proserpine, Cannonvale, as well as Bowen. As we all know, the vision for Sunny Coast Airport is to create a world-class aviation facility that's focused on the future. Our key priority for the airport is long-term growth, and we also aim to connect the airport through road, rail, transport, and logistics. So the master plan takes into account three different strategies. There's basically a low growth, medium growth, and high growth strategy. Our high growth strategy includes a number of aspects, but that takes into account additional daily flights from Melbourne and Sydney, upgauging from our current A320s to A321s in the future, the NEOs. And there's also a number of other initiatives in there, such as re-establishing the Newcastle Gold Coast, and then building on our current Adelaide success by looking at 2 additional domestic routes as well. The plan is basically broken down into 3 stages. So there's a critical piece, which is stage 1, stage 2, which is a slightly more longer term, and then stage 3 basically includes a longer term international expansion as well. So the priority works for this plan that's identified really is the unrestriction of Bay 1 and an apron extension with 2 additional bays, bays 5 and 6. And then there is also a terminal expansion component, which includes check-in screening points, departures hall, and then the extension of the current baggage makeup area. It also includes the STP, or sewage treatment plant upgrade, as well as fuel facilities. Priority Works 2 focuses more on vehicle access, ground transport operators, rental cars, all those sort of aspects, as well as accommodation increasing longer term as well. And then there is the duplication of the baggage makeup area. Priority Works 3 focuses on international arrivals, as well as the construction of dual taxiways, which will be essential in the long term. As is highlighted earlier, all the designs are conceptual, and they were basically used to create high-level estimates, especially for phase 1, and further plans will inform us more around the engineering, etc. Financial implications. We hope to, once adopted, and if adopted by Council, to take this plan not only to state but also federal governments for grant funding opportunities. Basically, as I said earlier, the plan really, the high-level plan indicates that by 10 years' time, 2034, we could be sitting at around the 850,000 passenger mark, which is a substantial increase on the current figures that we've got. I'm happy to take any questions just now.
Questions or comments? Councillor Collins?
Just a comment. The airport makes money, it costs a lot of money to maintain. It's probably the most scrutinised part of council in our region by several different organisations and a few people. We need to make sure our T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and we've got the best management in there we can have. We need to do this properly, and because like I said, we're going to be being watched upon. We're not only being watched upon by local, we're being watched upon by neighbouring regions as well. So it needs to be done properly, and that starts from the top to the person taking the bins out, mate. It's just, we've got to do it properly, and hopefully we can get the funding for this and get it happening, so it's all good.
Thanks, Mr. Matt. I'd like to thank Sean and Glenn, Andrew, all the team. I know I've put you through some extra work and a few extra visits. I think that's because I know the airport is such an important gateway. And as you mentioned, future growth is important. That's why I was concerned about boxing us into a conceptual design that doesn't allow for further future growth. Happy with the wording within it to leave it open to experts in the future, but I do underline the importance of knowing that if we close ourselves in with that baggage area, there is no further expansion of passenger space. That was my main issue here. Outside of that, I think we should continue along the strong growth we've had to show, use that and to show to the higher levels of government that the airport is important to our whole region and that it is worthy of the funding to actually reduce any requirements upon the ratepayer here. So I'm happy to support it. I haven't totally read the new draft, but I can say I took the time to go through this because I know there's some big dollars involved and that it's a key asset for the whole community.
Can I comment on this one? I think, look, we've seen some tremendous success out there in recent times that I think really has justified the previous expansion. So I think it's important that we have a strong vision for the future of that airport. It really is a critical council facility, and I think picking up on both Councillor Bowman and Councillor Collins's points there, we need to really elevate that, not just in our planning, but in our approach and how we manage that facility into the future. I think talking to other levels of government there, as we look say into the distance around things like the Olympics, we know that Whitsundays has a very unique opportunity. We're one of 5 destinations in Queensland that they really see driving the opportunity around tourism for those Olympics. So I think this gives us that forward vision and plan. Echoing Councillor Collins's comments that the hard part now is to get out and find the money to do that, but I think this gives us a platform to engage with both the state and federal government as partners to really see that vision delivered. So commend you on the job well done. Councillor Clifford.
Thank you. I'm very supportive of this. Anybody that's been out to the airport in recent times will agree that it's congested. Is a nice way of putting it. Particularly if you've got 2-3 planes on the ground at the one time, so you've got people trying to get out, people trying to get in. So the sooner the better. Thank you.
Any further comment? Okay. Motion that Council adopt the Whitsunday Coast Airport Master Plan 2024 and the Whitsunday Coast Airport Infrastructure Report 2024. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Item 11.10. We're here now. Council related policies review. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After hearing some council comments regarding these policies, I might ask if we could move to defer this, just to go through it a bit further.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that? Okay, the motion to table item 11.10 put to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried 5-1. Item 11.11, annual delegations review. Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Wright. Director Bradshaw, would you like to speak to this?
Ask the man to come.
Through the chair. Thank you. So this report presents our annual review of our delegations, which is an legislative requirement under Section 257 of the Local Government Act, which states that the CEO must review the delegations once every year. Last review was last year in September, and the Act requires the review to consider any delegations that have been put either to the CEO, to the Mayor, any standing committees, or any local government joint activities. This report focuses on all the delegations that Council have recommended for delegation to the CEO. The main reason we do this review is obviously to allow officers to administer their responsibilities and make decisions efficiently without the need for a formal council resolution for each delegation. Noting that council cannot delegate any power which is required to be exercised by resolution, and also that council can choose at any time to exercise any power itself after it has delegated any of the delegations to the CEO. The process that we undertake, we follow the guidance through LGAQ, delegation services, which is reviewed by King and Core solicitors. So they undertake the review twice each year, and they inform us of all the delegations and legislation that has been changed or new delegations that they recommend that be delegated to the CEO. So we've undertaken that exercise and went through those pieces of legislation which the CEO is recommended to be delegated. And in those changes, there are some significant changes in terms of just the number of the legislative changes that have happened just in the past year. And in summary, we have picked up changes either being amended or new to a total of approximately 125 pieces of legislation that requires changes. And hence, looking at that in the future, we are considering to actually commence doing this activity twice in a year instead of one, so that when we do this activity at a time, it's not such a big task. So we have reviewed the delegations that put in front of council today to review and adopt and delegate to the CEO. Following that, the administration will conduct as well a delegations review for all the sub-delegations, with each of the powers that we delegate to the CEO. The CEO is allowed under the legislation to delegate, sub-delegate to qualified employees to undertake some of those activities as well, again in the good spirit of making efficient council in terms of decision making. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, James. I'd probably just ask if you could explain the limits and conditions to the exercising of powers laid out through Schedule 2 and how that works for councillors, and then maybe how the councillors are aware of decisions that are being delegated. If we have the right to take those powers back, how do we know to exercise those powers? Thank you.
Through the Mayor. So in regards to Schedule 2, what it does, it gives the power to the CEO to exercise the full rights of those delegations as they are. To answer your question, I think the way we can do that is having some form of a reporting regime in regards to the delegations probably that are being exercised, and then that way council will be able to clearly see how they're being exercised, and if for any reason there are any delegations that council feels that they need to either take back or make a decision, then that can be also done. In addition as well, we are adopting the Schedule 2 in its general form, which allows the full power to be extended. But if council did choose for any specific power which they can do at any time, you can actually put specific conditions. If there was any delegation that you thought you wanted to put a limitation and not just apply the Schedule 2 general clause, we'll be able to do that at any time with any of those delegations to be able to impose any further conditions. But I take that probably the most important side of it is the reporting side of it, that we need to probably have a regime on this side to notify which delegations have been used at what point, whether it be either before or probably after they've been exercised, so council has oversight clearly of those decisions.
Councillor Clifford?
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. Just for the public that have tuned in, how many lines of delegation were there? There was thousands of pages, I know. So just the magnitude of it, I think, is of interest to everyone.
Correct, that is right. And through the chair, we're probably looking at over 3,000 lines of different acts of powers in that delegation that have been passed on through. It's a fun thing.
Yeah, look, I think that add to that, I think reviewing that is incredibly challenging. I think, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I think with regards to the reporting, to understand exactly where the delegations have been exercised, that's something I'd like us to ensure that we're actually informed of. Thank you. That's a moment.
Quickly for me, I think I did a word search of Chief Executive Officer for the person delegated to and got over 6,000 hits. So there's a lot of delegations in there, but we can't all come together and decide if someone can have a dog licence. I mean, realistically, there is powers here that are very operational, need to happen. Just in amongst those 300 pages, I didn't see Schedule 2 presented or in this report. Can you just clarify that it does stay as existing?
Yes, Schedule 2 does stay as existing. We have recorded the actual legislation, but in the attachment, I believe it includes Schedule 2 is part of it, or the delegations that are being delegated today.
Any further comment, councillors? Okay, the motion that council delegate the powers contained in the delegations register to the CEO in accordance with Section 257 Local Government Act 2009 and endorse the CEO to amend the CEO to employees, contractors, delegations register to reflect the changes as per recommendation 1. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried to 6-0. Item 11.12, amendment to donation on rates and services charges policy.
I'd like to declare a conflict of interest as I chair the housing company and we are one of the beneficiaries of a small donation of our rates and charges.
Are you declaring that as declarable or prescribed?
Prescribed.
Okay, so you'll leave that in. Thank you.
Yes.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Wright, second Councillor Bowman. Would you like to speak to that one, Director?
I can, Mr Mayor. Councillors, this really is an administrative tidy-up of the policy unit through the budget process. It seeks to clarify a few issues, one around the definition of the principal property, the further clarification around restricted liquor permit versus community club licence and community other licence around the applicability to not-for-profit organisations, and then seeking to reinforce the annual application form process to keep that relatively tight and current in terms of what applies to the policy. It is for this financial year 24-25, and the new policy will be brought back for the budget for 25-26. Policy has been approved through the budget, and this is really just a tidy up of some of that administrative work.
Councillor Collins?
The removal of clause 5, which one is that, Jason? That no assistance will be offered?
Yeah. It's really, clause 5 relates to the state government charges as well, councillor. So if they're subject to any state taxes, the concession doesn't apply.
Okay. So why do we need to remove that then? That's
just about tidying up the process,
yeah, right.
tidying up the policy administratively.
Councillor Bowman?
Thank you. I must admit, I thought clause 5 was about the multiple properties. I know this is just a drafting issue, that one draft got carried forward after changes, but yeah, I thought clause 5 was about them being able to do multiple properties, not that I'm against that. But,
Yes, sorry, you are right, Councillor Bowman. Just looking at that policy frame there, it is about the multiple properties.
I think because once 5 was deleted, then you were right with 5.
So we can do these financial ones together.
After questions that were asked today, I think we all know with the annual report that we see about 4 or 5 drafts and things often that come through and changes happen. And for me, I think this is something that we did just miss in the 386-page agenda of some minor parts of the policy. Thank you.
Any further comment? The motion that council adopt the donation on rates and charges policy for not-for-profit organisations as shown in attachment 1, I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried 5-0. Please let council open back on. Councillor Clifford, for your information, 11:13 was carried. On that note, just looking ahead, I think we'll group the financials together, but for now we'll adjourn for morning tea. All those in favour? Meeting adjourned at 10:27. stream, please. All good? Okay, welcome back everyone. The meeting's reconvened for morning tea at 10:46 a.m. Moving on to the next item, which was 11.13, the audited financial statement for 23-24 and the closing audit report. Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Wright, Director Bradshaw, would you like to talk to these?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good morning, councillors. You have before you the annual financial statements for the year 23-24 for adoption by council, but also the final and closing audit report from the Queensland Audit Office. Presenting to council in accordance with the legislation, so the audit was completed on the 21st of August, and these statements weren't able to come to the August committee meeting, but have been tabled today for council. The QAO audit has presented an unmodified opinion, so that means they are satisfied with the work that we've done in the financial information that we've presented. In relation to the final figures for the 23-24 financial year, you will note that there is an operating deficit of just over $3 million, and that's been caused by the timing of the financial assistance grants. We talked about that over the last couple of months. That payment from the Commonwealth Government to the State Government and then from the State to Council wasn't received before the 30th of June, so it will be reflected in the 24-25 information. The other impact that you will see in terms of the negative net result shown is really in relation to the accounting processes around the work done through natural disaster recovery, those replacement asset works, and also the asset work done around landfill remediation. So they're really book entries essentially at this point in time, but they do show a negative position. Of note though is that council is within the bounds of the 5-year averages with all its financial ratios that they're presented in the financial statements there. The audit was undertaken obviously through that time, and the audit committee has oversighted both the draft and the final versions of the annual financial statements, and they're presented as a true and correct record. There are a couple of issues still outstanding in relation to the audit. So in the final closing report you will note that there's a matter raised in the current year around purchase orders, and that matter is currently still being worked through in terms of how it becomes less of an issue as we move forward and the internal controls are rectified. There's an existing matter that has been addressed but continues to warrant some concern from audit, and that's around the capitalisation process. So whilst we work the capital work in progress balance down through the year, and we've also added to it, so it's still a significant number, and that's a process we're trying to tidy up internally with our capitalisation of the assets. The only matter raised through the financial statement audit was around the reconciliation of the revaluation of those big asset classes. That matter was rectified between the draft and the final financial statements, and that matter is now closed. The financial position for council does still remain stable. The ratios, as I said, are within bounds, and the annual financial statements are a reflection of the council's current financial position, showing relatively healthy cash balances, relatively low levels of debt, and an asset base approaching $1.4 billion. Happy to take any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Questions, councillors?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Jason. Always like getting financials with the notes. I haven't even got through to read all of these ones yet. It does give me a lot more information. Just with the financial assistance grant, remember last year mentioned a 6.2 million. I think I've seen 6 million mentioned more recently, and then currently we're only sitting about 4.8 above budget in grant income. Is there more of that grant we're expecting, or is the 4.8 what we're expecting?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, Councillor Bowman. So a couple of changes have resulted on the way through. So the final grant coming to council is less than what was originally expected, and the amount that's prepaid is less than what was previously prepaid. So the figure is just under $6 million in total now. and there will be 2 other payments made during this financial year to make up the almost $6 million that we get. So there were a number of changes in practice that have occurred, not only the deferral of the payment, but how the money's been released has changed as well. That will be reflected in the notes throughout the year, and then as we track towards the closing of the financial year, we'll have a clearer understanding of how that impacts the overall budget position. The other point to highlight there is that if that money had been received even in part, the council would have been in an operating surplus had those funds been received in the financial year. So it really is a timing issue. The quantum will be adjusted throughout the year, and again, the quantum of the grant wasn't released until after the financial year. So it's been really hard for us to give you an estimated understanding of what that position might be. And then the lesser prepayment amount's also been difficult for us to finalise in terms of knowing what the actual allocations are for the general unidentified component and then the roads component, which are the 2 components in the financial assistance grant calculations. So when that washes through, I'm happy to present some further information at a briefing session.
One question from me, Director. With regards to the provisioning of the 10 million for the landfill remediation, could you explain just the treatment of those funds? Is it partitioned within the LGIP? How does that sort of really be quarantined for the purposes in which it's been provisioned?
Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a requirement under the accounting standards for us to account for the provisions in relation to landfills and quarry activities. Because we're dealing with what we call legacy landfills, the remediation work to make basically to fill in the holes and make the ground back to natural environment, those environmental provisions have increased on council. The accounting treatments have changed to allow us further time to get that work done, but also the work that we need to do has increased in value as well. So it's not held in LGIP at all. Some of that funding that is forecast is still to be found through future budgets because it needs to be raised through recurrent revenue. I can't say it's an asset as such because it's not an asset at the end of the day. All we're doing is making good from our activities. So it's not like other types of assets where we would have funds set aside through LGIP or developer contributions to fund it. It is work that needs to be funded as we understand what our obligations are. What we're trying to do is spread that out over an affordable period of time because it's quite a significant provision, and manage that through how the lives of those landfills are realised, both in the short term and the longer term as well. So it is a technical argument around how it's funded and how we need to present it through the accounts, but it also represents the fact that for those provisions, that money needs to be there into the future, and not all that cash actually exists at this point in time. I hope that's clear.
Thank you. That's all right.
Thank you, through the chair. Director Jason, just in the report, in the body of the report, it does say in there about declared disaster works during the year, and in brackets it's got 30 million. Is that how much that it's cost us, or is that, so I see that that's deficit, but have we, how much money have we received through disaster funding?
Through you, Mayor, I can't answer that specifically off the top of my head, Councillor Wright. What we're actually reflecting there is that the grant money that we've received, we've spent during the year on those assets, but from an accounting purposes, we need to essentially recognise the value of that asset at the end of the financial year. So the whole intent of the restoration works is to fund the asset back to the condition that it was before the event. There will always be a timing difference between that, and so what we try and do is represent the best value at this point in time. So some of that might be writing on or off the value of the asset. To complicate things in the 23-24 financial year, we revalued all the assets as well. So we revalued the assets at a point in time, but in order to do that, we need to take the new value but write off some of the value that we've accumulated in the works that we've done during the year. So it's a bit of the year realises the full value through the valuation, and then we have to back out the work that we've done throughout the year. If that makes sense.
Any comments? I think I'm just speaking to it there, just around the subject of the financial assistance grants and the impact that it has on our financials and what we're communicating to the public around our financial position. I think it's incredibly important that we continue to have a discussion with both the state and federal government around some improved clarity around when that money is due. I don't think it's an acceptable position to be coming into the last couple of days of our financial year not knowing whether we're going to report a $7 million profit or loss or break even, so to speak. So we need to get a bit more certainty there, and that's something that I'd like to take up and make sure that we're communicating the need for that situation to improve in the future. And I think just touching on the audit items there, I think particularly around the raising of purchase orders, I think that's a situation we really need to work hard on to improve. I think that relates to the transparency that we provide to the public in our actions in making purchases with ratepayers' money. I think that's something that we need to make sure we've got a concerted effort towards improving in the future. Any further comments, councillors? Okay, the motion that council receive the audited financial statements for the 23-24 financial year and the 2024 closing audit report from the Queensland Audit Office. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried 6-0. Okay, so we're going to go to the late report items now, being item 13.1. The final annual report 23-24 adoption. Look, this is obviously a very important report. I think following on from the last one, our annual financial statements are a statement of how we've performed as an organisation. It is, I think through the process of setting our budget, that's our communication to the public on what we need for the year, what obviously dictates our rates, and sets out our, I guess, ambitions from an expenditure point of view and a revenue point of view. And really the annual report is the closeout of that. So it's obviously setting those targets financially, but then also demonstrating our performance against those targets. So can I please have a mover for that item? Councillor Bowman, and second to Councillor Wright. Would you like to speak to this one, Director Bradshaw?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, so you have in front of you two documents really. So the 23-24 final version of the annual report, and as the Mayor said, it includes the audited financial statements of Council. Inside that annual report, there's also a plain language, simplified financial report as well that tries to clearly explain the actual operating position of Council. As the Mayor indicated, the annual report identifies all the achievements that we've realised against the operational plan and the corporate plan throughout the 12-month period for the 23-24 financial year. Attached also to that for noting and reference is really also the Q4 operational plan performance. So councillors will note that every quarter we do present a performance report card, if you like, on the operational plan and its achievements throughout the year. All of those are summed up and highlighted through the annual report, but for completeness we've also shown that Q4 review attached to the report. The annual report is our primary report of performance on the organisation, both financially and non-financially. There's been a change in our approach and format this year, so it has been produced in-house using our own staff and expertise. It is taking the form of more of a compliance-based report in plain language. It's moved away from what might have been a coffee table style report that we've done in previous years. And that's really, I suppose, to make sure that we're meeting the legislative requirements and we're clearly stating to the community the key achievements that we've realised. It also reflects that we are a long way into the corporate plan that was set for the 21 to 25 period, and Council is currently working on that revised version of the corporate plan that will be due out for the following period from early next calendar year. The annual report is used by a number of state agencies to look at Council's performance, but also to assess our compliance obligations. There are a number of disclosure requirements that we are obligated to be transparent and report through the annual report, and they take up a good portion of the pages preceding the annual financial statements. The annual report is a representation of the whole of the organisation's efforts, and I'd also like to recognise the work done through the marketing and communications team in tying it together and putting it all into singular language so it reads much clearer than it might represent a conglomeration of what happens throughout the organisation. Happy to take any reports or questions that councillors might have.
Councillor Collins?
Jason, I'm just curious, mate, I was going to catch up with you earlier, but I always take delight in looking at the council's expenses. They got me down here for conferences, $31.82. What would that be for? That the invitation I sent out to me or something, because I don't go there. And also, what does general council business entail? Are we able to get a breakdown of that? Because I mean, I don't know what I've done, because I mean, I've never used a council vehicle. I use my own car. I drive up here to Bowen once a month, maybe twice a month. That's it. That's the council vehicle. But I'm just curious to see what these expenses against my name are for. If you can find out, please, James.
Okay. Councillor Butler.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just while we're on that page, I've questioned, no stay, but just that the Mayor and my mobile phone internet bills at $39 for the financial year. I'd love to be on that package for my personal phone, but I just think when we are laying out figures there, we do need to understand. I've questioned before why there can be such a big variance, and some people are on historical schemes. But yeah, three of us sitting on $39 does seem strange. I do know some policy touches on us getting a breakdown of all the expenses. I'd certainly hope in future years. I took the time to read this report 3 times now, 3 different drafts, but I do think when that one figure comes out, we'd be happy to individually receive an itemised list of what the figures are being put forward. Outside that, I do think the report, I've read some previous ones. I do think this is far more readable, far more easy for people to go just areas of their interest and find information. I appreciate all the work that went in from different staff and everyone correlating the reports. It's easy because it is for Jason. One thing in the operational one for me is just about the cyber security implementation. I know that's an important thing for us, but we are on hold at 95% of the CM implementation. I was just wondering if I put a page there for you. It's FA 3.1 operational initiative. It's saying we're on hold at 95% of the CM implementation finalising processes. So, happy for you to take it on notice.
No, that's right, I'm happy to answer that. So, through you, Mr. Mayor, this report is as at the 30th of June.
Yeah.
That work wasn't finalised at the 30th of June, but it was finalised in early July. That was dependent upon time and external expertise that we needed to assist, but that work is now completed and it's all in place.
Any further comments? Okay, the motion that Council adopt the 23-24 annual report and authorise the CEO to make any minor and/or cosmetic changes to the annual report as required. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Item 13.2, the monthly finance report. I'll move that one. Second, Councillor Wright. Director Bradshaw, would you like to speak to that?
I'm not.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, you have in front of you the report for the period to the end of August 2024. It does show an operating position of about $40.8 million as an operating surplus. That's significantly influenced by the issue of the rates and the payment that's continuing for those rates and charges for the financial year to date. So last month I reported, we were in a deficit position because there was no rate revenue. The rate revenue's gone in now, we have a significant surplus. There is a note there still around the timing of grants and subsidies, and that does reflect back to the comment you made, Councillor Bowman, about the quantum of some of the prepayments of the work that we've got, which we'll continue to pursue with government. Generally, the earnings are on track. Through the period, we have finished our closer discount through the month of September. We're into a phase of looking at reminder letters for the initial follow-up for the unpaid rates this month. Last month I did report some concerns around the employee cost and the on-costs associated with that. We've been able to rectify that, and it's generally back on target with the calculations, but you should note that the actual labour costs are still over budget at this point in time. There have been some influencing issues for that, but we'll continue to monitor that and look at the budget for wages as we look at Budget Review 1 through the financial year. In relation to the ongoing capitalisation, if we look at the community wealth on page 937, you'll see the actual year to date of the asset base now is just over $1.42 billion. So the asset capitalisations are going in there throughout the financial year. The cash balances remain at healthy levels, and that's due to the payment of rates through the end of that month and into September as well. The delivery of the capital performance report, whilst only representing about 10%, is tracking well when we look at the committed to date values of $32.8 million, and I know there'll be some further briefings around the capital delivery, but also looking at the closeout of the annual financial statements as to what potential carryover projects will be considered into the Budget Review 1. All the ratios that we're now required to report formally are within the ranges, so happy to take any questions on the financial performance, Mr.
Any questions? That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Probably just a more general one, but I know there's nearly $90 million of capitalisation sort of progress. Is there something of a normal figure that we would expect, and how long is that correction to take, and where does that sit with our overall community wealth of 1.4? Putting that number on top. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. There isn't a set number that we would aim for. It's often driven a little bit by the size of the capital projects and the capital budget for each particular year. One of the challenges, I think, has been around the continuing role of disaster recovery funding work that we do, and it continues to roll each year. So it's probably between, $0 and $40 billion in the last 4 or 5 financial years, and until that work closes out, it sort of sits in there. So it's a reasonable chunk of it. What we're trying to advance better is the normal capitalisation processes within council, for which there is a checklist. Some of that is held up at particular points in the process, and whether that, an example of that might be mapping it into council's geographic information system. Now, the checklist says that process isn't finalised until we can tick that box. That doesn't mean the work isn't done, the project isn't complete. It's a process that we need to go and look at in the organisation. So we do want to take that value back significantly, but I can't tell you what it should look like. There's no real prescribed number. I think the lower the number, the better. So if we can, halve that through this financial year, and then if there are no other, unexpected events, then we can halve it again. We might be back to some sort of normal position, but that also depends on the schedule of delivering the capital works, and that doesn't always line up with financial years. So there's a few unknowns in there, but our attempts will be to minimise the value in that work in process as we move the organisation forward.
Any further questions or comments? Okay. The motion the council receive the financial report and unaudited financial statements for the period ended 31 August 2024. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Okay. Next item is confidential business. 212. Move Councillor Clifford to close, second Councillor Wright. Council closed the meeting to the public at 11:12 AM in accordance with section 254J of the Local Government Regulations 2012 closed meetings for the purposes of discussing the following items and the reasons for going into closed session. On 12.1, sublease Shoup Harbour Marine Terminal, negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which the public discussion would likely be to prejudice interests of local government. I'll put that for the vote. Those in favour? Carried 6-0.
We'll just wait for that.
Yep.
Aye.
Okay, the council reopens the meeting at 11:20. Okay, so the item 12.1 sublease Shute Harbour Terminal. Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Bowman. The motion that the CEO, the council authorise the CEO to execute a sublease of a part of the land at Shute Harbour Marine Terminal to Reef Star Cruises for a term of 1 year. I put that to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Okay, moving on to item number 14, matters of importance. Would any councillors like to raise any matters of importance? Councillor Clifford.
Thank you, Chair. Over the weekend, there was an illegal party at Shute Harbour. There were approximately 500 people there. I did pass this information on to local laws, to the director, prior to the event because it's advertised. It is on national parks. We have no move-on powers. I've sent photos to the CEO this morning to say that the area was left in a disgusting state is being generous. There was rubbish and feces and the residents down there have cleaned up and packed it into bags. And what I would request is that we write to QPS and ask for their assistance in curtailing these things. They camped there. It was just horrible. So that's my request. Thank you.
On that, yes, thank you. Anything further, councillors? Okay. If nothing further, we'll close the meeting. Declare the meeting finished at 11:22 a.m. Thank you everyone for your attendance.